Ramble.
Thank you to Warby Parker, Purple Mattresses, and MeUndies for sponsoring today's episode.
Welcome once again to the TryPod, the comedy podcast, the award-winning, the Webby Award-winning comedy podcast that is slowly becoming more and more about how civilization is crumbling all around us. You know, we had a pandemic, now we have what is a much better thing that is, you know, we're finally facing against all the bad things in this country, slowly but surely, and I think we're starting to see change this week, which is very inspiring, right? We've seen a lot of good things happening, but I also know we got to keep on going. We got to keep on fighting the big old fight. You know, we used to get excited about YouTubers fighting each other. Now we're excited about people fighting systemic oppression, and that's just as enthralling. You know, they should both be pay-per-views. They're thrilling things to watch and see.
I'm imagining Keith getting the microphone at a protest, and he's like, all right, guys, keep on going. Keep on doing it.
I'm imagining the hype package of somebody fighting systemic oppression.
Oh, wow.
It's been a big week full of protests. I know we've been able to go to some. I know we've been contributing to funds for, you know, both for people who have lost loved ones from police to people who are wrongfully jailed for protesting. There's been some crazy shit going on, y'all.
Keith, we raised $25,000 in our video this weekend.
That was huge.
Insane.
So exciting. Thank you to all of our viewers who donate to that fundraiser. That's very awesome, and we love that our fans, I think, are on the right side of this movement, which is very inspiring to us. I had somebody say that they were unfollowing me, or they were gonna stop watching my content because I was entertainment. And you know, they're some stupid person. I don't mind losing them, but it's just
Get out of here.
It's like whatever, you know.
Well, do you want to start there? Because it's one of the things that we've been wondering and thinking about is how do you communicate your message to people
Right.
in a way that reaches them as opposed to going into your own echo chamber. And you had a specific experience there, Keith, with you. I think you've been very gracious, but you started fighting one person.
Yeah, I fight a couple people. Well, I actually only do long threads back and forth with people if I think they're actually not a troll and they are a person who has incorrect beliefs. If you're a troll, if I go and look and you're clearly just writing mean things everywhere, I'm like, well, I'll just block you. You're not worth it. But yesterday, this was just very funny. There's a woman named Deborah. I fully believe that is who she is, and she is a real person and not a bot. And she doesn't like what I've been posting on Twitter, but instead of responding to any of the tweets that I posted, she went to my retweet if you love corn Diddy pinned tweet and commented on that.
Let's be clear. That thread is exclusively for praise for me and revolts against systemic racism and police brutality. That's the only two things acceptable on that thread.
But it was the classic argument, which I really don't enjoy, which is you're equating all the police to the actions of one, even though that person in that moment is equating all of the protesters to the action of the few looters and rioters. I responded with, it's not. It's the whole police department is built on basically, it originated as, you know, keeping slaves in their place, and then it grew to be a regime that is basically just hurting minorities, and yeah, there's a whole lot. You can watch documentaries, and I would recommend The 13th on Netflix. It's a great starting place. But I just said that, you know, that is a huge problem, and you're ignoring it, and it's crazy. And then I would I demand anybody who has these views to give me reports that back up their views. And that is where it always stops with people. And I don't know how no one's even written fake articles that they could post, right? There's no one's even written fake things that they can use for their argument's sake, or even they haven't read them, because it's so easy to go and just Google, how did this begin? And they go, oh, well, there it is. And they're like, no, it didn't. I have the facts to back it up. Where are they? You show yours. I'm like, okay. He's like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, well, you show yours. Like, no.
Yeah, you know, Zach, you're talking about how to change someone's mind. One thing I saw the other day that I thought was a very effective technique was Natalie Portman's post on defunding the police. She started with a kind of addressing a misconception where it starts with like, when I first heard the words defund the police, I have to admit I was a little scared. She kind of goes into like up top addressing the kind of common misconceptions about that, where it means like, oh, no safety, blah, blah, blah. And then goes on to say all the positive things about, putting the community first and reinvesting in communities and having all the things that police officers really shouldn't be doing, having other organizations do that. So I thought that was probably a really effective way in kind of like drawing in potentially some of her fans that were confused and were a little on the fence about it. And, I hope that it was very effective in changing people's minds.
I think that's really smart. I've been taken to using my platform for activism this week and trying to figure out, how can I get a message out there that I believe in a way that doesn't just continue bouncing off the walls inside this circle that already agrees with me. And I've tried to respond with graciousness to people that disagree with me. I've tried to be polite and kind and thank them for their opinion and share mine, because I feel like as a white ally, that's what I can do, right? I think a lot of people are deservedly fed up and should not feel forced to have to explain their position. So I'm going to try and do that. And some, I've been delighted to find, have been open and receptive. Others, just the second you offer kindness to them, their claws come out, the walls go up, and they just start lashing out. And I've found that very disheartening and hurtful of like, oh, you can't, we're so entrenched that people won't even engage in a conversation. I don't know. Do you guys have family members or friends? Like Maggie is a nurse. A lot of her nurse friends are married to police officers. That's just a weird thing. Like, it almost seems like a cartoon thing, the police officer and the nurse married, but like that happens all the time. And so we've had some really tough conversations with people that are hurt of, oh, why are you guys posting all of that? Are you saying that my husband is a bad man? And I'm like, no, he's a good guy, but he's part of a bad thing, which makes him a bad thing. And I don't hate him. I just want to change the job that he does.
Yeah, I've rescinded invites for holidays for people who are going to vote for Trump.
There you go.
I think there's one like active thing, especially since I'm from Texas, which is going to be a pretty pivotal state in the election.
Yeah.
Which is sometimes you can't quite get them to understand whether they be older or younger, or perhaps a little more, a little less well versed on the issues. Every aspect of systematic racism. It's hard for even like us. It's hard for us. It's hard, especially for white people, to understand in a day, in a week. Like, we have to remember, this is not something that you are going to get immediately. This is a lifelong lesson. But one thing that people will get is when you tell them, if you vote for Trump, I'm never going to speak to you again. So I have said this to a few family members, because their votes are really important in Texas. If Texas turns blue, apparently in November, the Democrats should automatically win the election.
I can't even believe that's a discussion. I can't even believe that that's a possibility right now. It's blowing my mind.
I donated money to the Texas Democratic Party. I'm like, let's go, baby. Let's do it.
I'm actually considering heavily to do something extremely, as much as I can with my platform, with other people from Texas, to reach the young voters. Because a lot of the problem with the turnout, if you guys remember in the midterms in 2018, Beto O'Rourke almost beat Ted Cruz. And that was the big battle. And the trend is going that direction, not just because of out-of-state people who moved into Texas, but the makeup of Texas racially is going to be majority Hispanic and Latino in the next few years. Like, it's going to overtake the majority in terms of the ethnic breakdown. Asian Americans are the biggest growing population. There's a huge black population. So Texas, although having a very long history of conservatism and a lot of like mythology around being like a bastion of the far right, is actually very, there are certain morals, I think, in terms of the code that go against Trumpism. And I am very hell-bent on getting anyone that has a vote in that state to not vote for Trump.
Yeah. So you're going with the FOMO approach. I mean, Zach Zach's trying to change people's minds through like being super nice, and you're saying, I'll change their mind by making them wish they were at my party so bad.
Yeah, that's a good strategy.
Yeah, Eugene, you're using your kind of like your hotness and your coolness.
Well, I think a caveat is that I'm older. You know, I'm in my 30s, and also the people I'm speaking to generally are older. So, you know, if you're young and listening, you probably have less leverage there, like what I'm doing. But I'm at a point where I'm comfortable and safe enough to posit this ultimatum, and it has worked in a lot of ways. It isn't working with a particular person, and that is becoming a very big sticking point.
So I've actually had to take the opposite. I've had to take the opposite approach where Eugene says you can't come to my party if you vote for Trump. I've been saying if you vote for Trump, I will come to all of your parties. I will be there, and you're going to have to deal with me, and you don't want that. So if you vote for him, you're going to be stuck with me forever. My presence is a threat.
And Zach does not leave.
No, he last guest. Yeah.
You can send all the signals. He won't pick them up.
Does this have butter in it? Does this have bell peppers in it? Does this have dairy in it? Is this, can I have this? Is there alcohol in this?
Can't eat that.
Well, I think we should about turn in for the night, huh?
How about Scrabble, anybody?
You guys want to play another round?
Okay, you guys go to bed. I'm chill down here. Hey, what's your Disney Plus login?
Well, guys, we've been in the midst of this, thinking about this, every waking minute of the day, and we're in this for the long haul, baby. So we'll obviously be talking about this for weeks and weeks and months to come.
Ever.
But as you're sort of pursuing the passion of fighting systemic racism, I mean, I think it's important also, like in little moments, if the stress is too much, to hop off and relax for 10, 20 minutes, just to allow your brain the longevity of being in the fight for the long haul. How have you guys been able to do that? Because first we were kind of doing that for COVID, being like, I'm stuck inside my house, how am I relaxing? And now we're kind of fighting against a different sort of stressor.
I think you're totally right. Mental health is very important. And Miles, for me, I don't know if you know this, but the day that this podcast comes out is my birthday.
Oh, happy me!
It's a happy birthday. Happy 33rd to Mr. Ned. So we actually we rented a house this weekend. We rented a house in Ojai with a pool, and we're able to kind of unplug and like recharge our batteries, and it was very, very rejuvenating.
I also have a birthday, so Ned and I, our birthday is only a week apart. So my birthday is the week following this podcast coming out. But I don't know what I'm gonna do. You know, I always liked getting Airbnbs or like going to Palm Springs or something. I'd still love to figure out some sort of small trip sometime. Also with having Becky, but at the same time there is still coronavirus out there.
Oh, what's that? Is that still happening?
Yeah, that's still happening. And, you know, there's just, it feels like, for me, the only thing worth risking coronavirus right now is fighting oppression. So I just like, well, I'll go to marches. I'll try to be distant, but I won't go sit in a restaurant and eat. And not yet. I went to a restaurant that was open with like 4 tables, and I was like, oh wow, holy cow, it's happening.
I saw one too. I don't think a big birthday dinner is something I'm ready to risk right now.
The last few years I've done Korean barbecue for every holiday. Anytime I want to celebrate, whether something good happens for the Try Guys, it's my birthday, it's Christmas time, it's Thanksgiving time, don't really care. I want to do Korean barbecue because it's my favorite communal meal. Now, a communal meal, that's the worst idea. And I don't know when I'll be able to do that again. And it's something I will miss. But I don't know. Still don't know what I'm going to do for my birthday. Still don't know. Maybe you guys got any ideas?
I mean, I do think renting a house is fairly low risk. So if you want a recommendation...
You know, I love technology, Eugene. You know I do. It makes cars better, makes phones better, makes shopping easier. But you know what hasn't had the inspiration of technology like it needs until now?
What?
Is mattresses. Finally, the mattress has evolved thanks to Purple. The secret to Purple is the Purple Grid. It's a patented comfort technology that instantly adapts to your body's natural shape and sleep style. Purple is for every body, no matter how you sleep. So I sleep on my left side, works out great. Sometimes I sleep on my back, works out great. Purple is designed with over 2,800 open air channels and naturally temperature neutral gel, so you'll never sleep too hot or too cold, which is a problem I used to struggle with all the time. I'm one of those leg out boys, got to keep that leg out to keep the AC running in my body. But thanks to the Purple mattress, I don't have to do that anymore. And it's soft where you want it, firm where you need it, and comfortably cool all over. It's truly a mattress that does it all, baby. And Purple is so confident in what they do that every Purple mattress comes with free shipping and returns and a risk-free 100-night trial. That's 30% of the year, baby. That's a huge deal. So experience the next evolution of sleep. Go to purple.com/TryPod and use promo code TryPod. For a limited time, you'll get $150 off any Purple mattress order of $1,500 or more. That's purple.com/TryPod, promo code TryPod for $150 off any mattress order of $1,500 or more. Terms apply.
I think a lot of people have birthdays or anniversaries or graduations coming up, and with the compound factors of coronavirus and civil revolution, right? Like of mass protests across the country for civil rights, there might be feelings of guilt of, oh, maybe right now isn't the time to have fun and focus on myself. So how are you dealing with that inner conflict?
I mean, it was definitely tough. I felt a little guilty going and kind of just literally leaving the city. But I think it's also really important to give yourself mental space to, to take care of yourself. And then that can leave you so much more focused and invigorated for the coming days and weeks, because it's not just a 1 week fight. I mean, it's going to be going on hopefully for months and months and months and cause change that will change forever.
Eugene, you famously never relax. How have you been handling this situation?
Hit the nail on the head. I have not relaxed. I think I might have a slightly shifted perspective, where I am invigorated by everything happening. I also feel like an immense amount of, like, even that lady, was it a lady who called you out on Twitter, Keith, or tried to, when she said that she just wanted to watch you for entertainment? Was she like a Karen?
Yeah, she was a Deborah.
Yeah. You see from people like this idea that, oh, I'm losing X amount of followers because of this, but that should call into question this idea of why did you even have followers like that to begin with?
Yeah.
So it's really like put me in a sense of constantly thinking about what more I should be doing and saying, especially as you see other issues come up like J.K. Rowling's tweets that are trans exclusionary and anti-trans, and thinking about my position as someone who is trying to produce as much work for queer people of color. It's been both inspiring and incredibly soul crushing. I don't know how to, it's a very unique feeling, but I guess, I mean, in a way, even like the way when I produced my coming out video, that was probably one of the closer feelings I've had, where I felt inspired, but also like there was the weight of a million things on my spirit.
So what do you do when you feel that weight? I
shift it towards work, but I think it's appropriate because the work I'm doing is directly related to those issues. And by work, I mean like, I guess the work that I'm working on that I don't really talk about, the queer Asian oriented stuff. But I think it's just good to channel it somewhere where you feel like it's being productive. If you feel like you need a moment to unplug, then that's like totally valid. And I think that's what a lot of people require. I think for me, it's been a redirecting of energies and making sure that if I have any feelings that feel like they're coming out in a scream, then maybe they're valid in their own way and need to be told through another medium.
I've found myself doing a similar thing where I have been segmenting my time of social protest as my break from work. So instead of allowing myself to just be consumed by news 24/7, I've been trying to segment it to the morning, lunchtime, and a check-in in the evening, where I feel like if I give myself 30 minutes or an hour to compose some thoughts, to try and teach people about the misconceptions about defunding the police, that is something that makes me happy, and I feel like I'm doing something positive with my time. So it's been a break from my work to feel like I'm contributing to the society at large. But then also at the end of the day, I need to shut my brain off.
Yeah, I don't know. It to me that it feels like it is my work to do that. I feel this responsibility of having a platform to try and educate people and to provide a perspective and to do research, and so I think it can really feel all-consuming when it can last all day or into the evening.
It's tough, right? Because you want to tell people that they should be allowed to disconnect. And I don't mean in a grand macro sense. Disconnect implies apathy and ignorance. We don't want you to do that. But if you are out there fighting the good fight, you need balance in your life because, as we said, you need that energy for longevity. If you burn yourself down to the fuse, well, now you've got nothing left to fight for the next day.
The simplest explanation is Becky and I, after we protest, typically go buy a pizza. and it's honestly just because like this is something we're gonna get this pizza, we're gonna go home, we're both gonna shower, put our clothes we were wearing in the hampers so we don't wear it because coronavirus, and then we'll sit down and have pizza and wine, and we'll still probably be talking about what we saw and sharing things, but at least we're giving ourselves something we see as a treat. And we've done a little more takeout since we started protesting. Also, it's really, you walk for 8 miles and you go home and you think you're going to make yourself buffalo cauliflower tacos. You're crazy. You're going to tell me you're going to sit there for 25 minutes and make tortillas from scratch, Keith? No, you're not going to do that today. You're tired.
Making tortillas from scratch? What?
Always. Once I found out how easy it was and how delicious they are.
Is it easy?
Oh my God, it's so easy.
You got it. Okay, we'll offline about a recipe because I want to know.
Take a minute for it. Hit us.
Okay, we're gonna bring the people into this tortilla discussion.
This is a good moment, and this is something like the coronavirus has really done for me is that I used to cook a lot, and then I got too busy with work, and I really stopped cooking. And now, because I'm home, I spend normally more like 2 hours on dinner where I used to try to spend 30 minutes on dinner. And I just like, why not make it from scratch? I got time. So it's just almost equal parts water and masa harina, which is corn flour that has been treated with some I can't remember what it is. It's got something in it. And when you open the bag of that flour, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's tortillas. It smells only like tortillas. And it's just like a little more flour than water, and you can put some salt in it, and then you put it in a tortilla press, or you roll it out and you just put it on the hottest thing you got, whether that's a cast iron skillet, a normal skillet, a baking sheet, doesn't really matter. It just needs to be searing hot. You put it on there, you flip it after a minute, it gets another minute, it's done. And they also, you put them in a towel and they stay hot for 30 hours. They stay searing hot. I don't know how it's possible, but I've been doing that. We make fish tacos, cool. Make buffalo cauliflower tacos.
I think that's something that you and I share, where like the act of cooking itself is a way of de-stressing.
And it's been tougher once we stopped cooking as much meat in the house, and that's what I used to do as my like thing. If we had people over, I'd make like a roast or something. So it's been tougher to like do that with vegetables, but we found our way there, and now we make these really big breakfasts, and even that is a good way to divide up the day and have like an hour in the middle of the day where I'm just cooking and then eating something delicious, and then I go back into work.
That was a main theme of my birthday weekend was cooking. It was sort of like I didn't want to go clubbing or out to a big restaurant, just like hanging out with family, and really like most of it was like there would be probably 2 hours that we would spend preparing each meal, even like lunch or something.
I'm just picturing COVID clubbing, which is just Ned alone in a dance floor going, woo,
6 foot clubbing.
Yeah.
Oh God. There's no way
that.
I'm going to any sort of a club or bar.
Maybe they could do like a club karaoke style where there's private rooms and you go and it's like you and your 3 friends. And you just
all glass walls. Ooh, call it Glass House.
Hey,
that would be pretty fun.
It's going to be echoey.
What would you guys do, even if it were open? Would you guys feel comfortable going to like a club?
Hell no.
Where's your line lie?
I wasn't comfortable going to a club for, first of all, ever.
First of all, ever. Yeah, not my scene.
But I stopped going to places like bars and clubs about a month before LA shut down because just the the slowly approaching storm of Corona was too much for me. I'm biased. I got my immunosuppression, so I'm staying in forever. But yeah, what is your threshold? What will you go to?
Certainly not clubs or bars, but you're right. That is probably also because I don't particularly enjoy it just in general.
Yeah. I think the issue with the bars is that from the footage you're seeing, particularly from places like Vegas, they're not observing the masks. And I think a lot of places I've seen as I drive by, you check in with a mask, but then you take it off when you go inside. Right. The difference with the protests is that I would say pretty much like 99.999% of every protester was wearing a mask, and you're outside and you're constantly just passing past one another. But to be in one isolated space with no masks on, that's tough, especially in inebriation situation. Like, I think the problem is once you get drunker too, those places are for partying.
Mask is coming off.
Yeah. You're going to touch other people. You're going to talk really close to people's faces.
Loud, spewing kiss saliva.
You're going to make out with everybody.
Yeah, lick them.
Yeah. I would go for maybe a very contained drag show, like as if it was theater, but I don't think I'm going to be going to any bars or clubs anytime soon, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm bummed about that too. I love a good social evening. I love like I said before, I love going to a restaurant where we're all like sharing and then we go to a fun bar, or maybe we get a karaoke room, and all of those things are just tight spaces with bad ventilation and strangers.
It is funny. We've gone from months of COVID to now it's summer, like seemingly overnight, because I've been in my home forever. And I've gone from seeing absolutely nobody for 3 months, right? Is that how long it was? 2 months, 3 months? I don't know. 8 years?
Almost.
To now seeing all of Los Angeles. Like the protest, it is like I've gone from zero to everybody. And it is this explosion of energy that like it's infectious when you're there. You're like, oh my God, like I'm alive. Like people are, we're rising up. Yeah. But it's kind of made me forget like, oh, right. I still need to stay the fuck away from people, and I can't go to places. And
I got a bone to pick when I'm out there protesting, and I walk by a restaurant and there's people brunching. There are people brunching while a march goes by. I'm like, what? Where are your priorities, ma'am? What the hell are you doing sitting having a mimosa as clearly there's a revolution of oppressed people, like standing up for themselves, other people standing up for them and helping to fight, and you're having an omelet.
Yes, ma'am. But counterpoint, Eggs Benny.
Sure.
We all love the flavors of brunch.
Defund Eggs Benedict, honestly.
Eggs Benedict Arnold.
It was kind of crazy to walk by and see people like enjoying their brunch amidst this. It's just like, oh my God, if I went to brunch and then suddenly there was, and I didn't know somehow, and then there was a protest on that street, I would be like ashamed of myself. I'd be like, I need to get a check and I need to leave and I need to join this march. How could I enjoy a breakfast? Right. It just seems crazy to me.
Yeah, I think I would like to pitch abolishing white people cutely shortening words.
You coming after me and my Eggs Benny?
Super great idea, bro. We could do a little abolish, little abobo, the abbrev.
It is bad, but I do it
especially a lot. Food. My God.
Eggs Benny.
Super.
Yeah. Or like making up names for like other, like what do you guys call celebrities again?
Celebos.
Oh my God.
But that's only because it's so stupid.
Eugene, that's not because we're white. It's because we're cool.
I'm totally with Eugene. We got a bobo the breves, bro.
Yeah, it's because I'm moving too quickly. I'm like a businessman. I don't have time to say this.
Yeah,
look, I don't like it, but I respect your position.
You ever with your mom?
That's the worst. That's the worst is when something's shortened to ish.
Were you ever with your mom when you were like a kid and like she started using abbreviations to be cooler, and she's like what wine do you have? It's like, I'll take the Pinot Gris. Or just, like this shit. And I was like, Mom, please just order the wine with the full name. No, I'm so embarrassed.
Brosefs, we got a lot of feelings about this. We probably better get some Sandos and dish.
Right.
So this is a cultural thing.
It actually feels like a very SoCal thing, right? Like, isn't it?
I don't know. I think it's pretty East Coast too.
I think it originates with Jack Black. Did it a lot, and I loved that as a boy. And he was always just like, "What's your favorite position?" As a Tenacious D lyric, and I was like, I want to be like that guy. And so now,
he was very precocious.
Eugene, were you about to say that immigrants don't abbreviate words?
No, because they're already trying to grasp the English language correctly.
That's true.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, my mom's not going to be like Pinot Grigio. She's going to figure out. She's trying to figure out how to pronounce Pinot Grigio. She's going to be like Pinot Grigio. So she ain't saying Grige. And I don't know if it's Jack Black. I think I've heard it mainly from like people's like aunties and their moms and their grandmas. You know, even the way you guys call your grandparents, all like pet names and like shortened names. I think
coming after Grammy right now?
Like Grammy.
I will say I grew up calling my dad Pa.
Wow.
Everyone's collectively your head tilted, and you went.
I like that. Pa.
Well, you were from
Use
North
it in a
Carolina.
sentence.
Right?
Yeah, that was the most southern thing.
Pa, can I go outside to the yard? Pa, I left my toys in the creek.
Yeah, you're literally not far off. I would be like, "Hey, Ma and Pa," like Mom and Pa. I called my mom, but I called my dad Pa. So I'd be like, "Hey, Pa, can you come in here for a second?"
Old Ma and Pa shop.
Pa! I stubbed my toe!
I think a lot of cultures do pet names for families now that I think of it, but I guess it's really the food shortening that bothers me the most.
Yeah.
Like people who say za instead of pizza.
Oh, that's
That's
awful.
bad.
Gross.
Terrible.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And that's always a white guy named Chad.
I only use it ironically, but do you ever use a word like that ironically too much, and then you're worried that it's part of your lexicon?
I was going to say, do you only exclusively have a personality that is loving things ironically until they're genuine? Fast and Furious, Cats. Like everything I love is an ironic love
Started
that
off
just
as a
becomes
joke.
genuine.
And now you like it sincerely.
If you're like a cool hip person who is like, I watch reality TV because it's so crazy and stupid. You like reality TV, and you're no different than the other people
Miles,
who watch
you
it.
love Grey's Anatomy.
I love Grey's Anatomy. There's
love
no irony to it. I love it.
What about though, Eugene? If I was gonna go get a sandwich and I'd be like, "Yo, dog, I'm already failing." If I was like,
you're
"Yo,
already failing.
yo, do you want to go grab some Sammys?" You'd be like, "Hell yeah."
I mean,
No, I've never grown up around people saying Sammys. I heard like as a kid, a white friend of mine said Sando.
Sando.
Yeah, but I want a sandwich.
I don't know where. Like, I think Sando is what like expensive restaurants offer when they're also selling sandwiches. It's like we have like nice other food, but you can also get the turkey bacon Sando.
Oh, now we're talking.
Yeah.
one thing I'm torn about when it comes to reopening is sports games, because I really like going to sports games, specifically NFL games. P.S. If you didn't see it, the NFL players released a very powerful video that then got the NFL to completely change tacks and admit that they were wrong about the whole kneeling during the anthem thing.
But they have not apologized to Kaepernick yet.
No, there's still a lot that's fucked up about it, but I really applaud the players.
Right.
Yeah. The San Francisco 49ers released a image in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement, and people were like, "Oh, really? Really, 49ers?
Really?
Now you're behind it?" The fucking Washington Redskins released a message against systemic racism. I'm like,
That's fucked
maybe
up.
we don't need your voice in this fight.
Until the Redskins change their name, the NFL has a long way to go. But anyways, nice to see at least some momentum. Anyway, so I love going to NFL games. And is that like, what if they have NFL games in this fall? How am I going? I don't think I would feel comfortable going.
Sports fans are renowned for being respectful of space, very orderly and calm.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Very
You're
quiet.
You're right.
They don't scream.
Yeah.
So I think you're totally dope.
As long as the Rams don't ever play the Philadelphia Eagles, I'll be good.
Have you heard of MeUndies before? Because I think you have.
Oh yeah, they're pretty much in every podcast ever. I've heard of MeUndies, and now I have MeUndies.
Yeah, they've been on your butt. They literally design undies for your comfort and self-expression, and you can do anything you want in them. You'll be comfortable as a cuddly kitty.
It's time to end our toxic relationships with the tattered old undies, the ones where the waistbands are worn, there's holes in them. Get rid of those old things. They're not good for you. They're not supporting your junk in your trunk or in your front trunk. Look, those looking to up their undie game, you can choose from a monthly membership, build a pack, and you can even match your undies with your other half, your significant other, your SO. And no matter what you choose, you're going to get a soft, sustainable pair of undies delivered straight to your door with free shipping.
And you can get any print you want that expresses your true self, like Keith and his cute pandas. It's one of the softest fabrics I've ever had the pleasure of wearing, so I definitely think that MeUndies is a staple now in my underwear drawer. MeUndies has a great offer for any of our listeners. For any first-time purchasers, you get 15% off and free shipping, and it's a no-brainer, especially because they have a 100% satisfaction guarantee.
So to get your 15% off your first order, free shipping, and 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/tryguys. That's MeUndies.com/TRYGUYS. Try Guys. I know that we were talking with my friend Biwo about how Korean baseball, they've filled up all the stadiums with stuffed animals.
It is unbelievable. So yes, ESPN bought the rights for Korean baseball to air here, and behind the dugout where the batters at bat, it's just filled with adorable stuffed animals to fill the crowd.
What?
And by the way, that is what we should be doing forever. It is so much better than watching some idiot like try and eat a hot dog and not squirt mustard over his shirt while I'm like, I just want adorable bunny rabbits and bears behind my baseball players. It was the most boring sport. Now it's the absolute best. Fuck yeah, baseball.
What if that's how we solve the social distancing? Every sixth chair is just a guy, and then it's another set of stuffed animals, and then some other person.
Love that plan.
I think that's how we have to do it.
So in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to go to anything, but I do want to go see a movie. And that's like the one thing in my mind where I'm like, I know I shouldn't. But also, Tenet is a cinematic experience, and Christopher Nolan movies deserve to be seen on the big screen. They're starting with, I believe, 25% capacity, but people say it's really hard to clean the chairs. Like, I don't know. It's that's the one in my mind where I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna roll the dice somewhere, I'm gonna do it for that.
Did you see the WHO did that thing where they were like, oh, if you're asymptomatic, you can't really spread the virus. And then 2 days later, they were like, we really shouldn't have said that. That was not what we meant.
Yeah, I did see that.
Huge, our bad.
I mean, I guess my answer is that I genuinely am not going to do anything for many months. Other than being outside, I will be the last, and I'll let everyone else go see what happens. But I'm going to continue to practice social distancing because I believe it's the right thing to do for myself and for the community around me.
Right. And we don't even know what the effects of opening the country has been yet. Like, because it's only been in the past like
not
week
great,
or
Cotton.
so.
All the data that will be coming will be because of Memorial Day because it's such a lag. But you're telling me, Zach, that if you were like one of 6 people in a movie theater,
You're dude, I want to go. I really want to go.
I feel like that is on par with going to the grocery store, which still risky. Shouldn't do it every day.
I will say that's been a thrill, is that because I'm immunosuppressed, Maggie has become the full-time grocery shopper of my household, and I'm never going back. I'm going to try and ride this wave as long as I can, where I'm like, it's really not safe for me out there, and you already had COVID, so, you should go. It's great.
Your antibodies.
Your antibodies,
sweetie.
It is amazing how at the beginning of coronavirus time, I was so nervous to go to the grocery store. And I was like putting on my mask. I was wearing like little gloves. I was taking all my clothes off and putting them in the wash. And then the other day, I just like went to the grocery store and bought coffee, and that was fine. And I didn't worry about it. And the new world has just taken over, and it's absolutely fine now.
Well, grocery stores have been like charted as like very, very low risk because you typically, as long as you don't, as long as you're not just hanging out there, it's very unlikely for you to get pick up a grocery that somebody else has picked up who has it, it's just, and then even then, maybe you don't even use that food in your house for for a day anyway. Apparently it's very difficult as long as you're washing your hands.
Mm-hmm. And Miles, I also think there's a sense of the first time you venture out in public with a mask and gloves, it's very traumatizing just because it is the first time. Yeah. And the second time's a little easier. The third time, even if you're taking the same level of precautions every single time, mentally, because you start to develop a routine, it feels easier.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the main thing is to not slack off on precautions. Even if you're relaxed about it, you still need to be taking
still carry that hand
precautions.
sanitizer.
Yep.
Still have your masks and rotate your masks and wash your masks. And we just ordered a few more because now that we're like, when we go to a protest, we're like, well, that's done. We don't wear that. Whereas if I'm just going like to the store, I might wear that same mask a couple days later after, like, we kind of rotate them through. But anytime it goes to a crowded area where there's like, that one's
in
done.
the wash.
Is it done because it has COVID on it? Like, how does what makes it done?
It's done because we feel like it's been the most exposed. Like,
You don't mean
like,
done. You just mean you wash it.
No, I just mean it goes in the wash.
Let's talk about the statues, the Confederate statues that are rightfully being taken down. There are a lot of far-right people who are very upset about it.
There's nothing like more awesome than seeing a crowd topple a racist statue. I just think like it's just such a symbol of fuck you. It's like,
it gets you pretty fired up.
Sculpture. I get like, it feels like a victory, especially when they then drag it and drop it into the water.
I mean, also a lot of us are from the South, so we are like getting to see it in our hometowns. Shout out to Jacksonville, taking down Confederate statues. I see you, Jayville.
I've never understood it. So I grew up in New York. We don't have Confederate statues. I don't know how anyone ever tolerated it. What I've found interesting is prior to this moment, when we did some of our touring this summer, I met some very liberal people who had conflicting feelings about the statues, where they still thought it was, and maybe Eugene, you probably know more about this than I do. You grew up around it, but they still thought like, well, we don't like it, but it is part of history. I think that argument is insanity, but I wonder if it is a point of pride, not pride. For white supremacists, it's a point of pride. Is it a point of reverence to history, or is it Stockholm syndrome of like, I've grown up with this statue and...
It's pretty ingrained culturally in the South and in our education that, statehood, the idea of what your state history is. I took 2 to 3 years of Texas history.
That's crazy.
There's so much about pride in your state, and that gets very convoluted and problematic once you get to the Civil War and the Confederacy, that a lot of people, especially those who are in the majority, associate this feeling of both pride and nationalism with something that they feel like is culturally significant to them. And I think it's because there's a lot of things that in their lives are not very culturally significant. I mean, I think that when they find that there's something for them historical that they can latch onto, and it certainly doesn't help that teachers or powers or parents all sort of support that. They're gonna take emblems like statues as something that they feel is part of the DNA of who they are, which is kind of ironic because most of those people also did not have ancestors that went back to that time in the state.
It's like it's not something you should be proud of. Zach, growing up, there would be kids, or like you would see teenagers in high school who would drive a big tricked out truck with Confederate flags on the back. It's like that was a common occurrence in Jacksonville. You would just see every so often there'd be some usually a large truck, usually something that was jacked up.
The best is when you see a Confederate flag and an American flag next to each other and you go, oh, you don't understand history, do you? They were enemies, actually.
Yeah. That's when it comes down to this dialogue about anti-racism being taught, because it's so easy for these families and these schools and these groups of friends when you're young to ingrain themselves in this mythos, this falsehood that the Confederacy or whatever the South was representing pre-Civil War was something to be celebrated. Like, it completely erases any even echo of how horribly institutionalized the Black experience became after slavery. And because that's never touched upon when people discuss the Confederacy in their households or in our curriculums, that's how these kids and that's how these people start getting this idea that it's okay. And then the only time they're confronted about it is when something like what's happening now is publicized and amplified. But then they're just, essentially that is the core of what the issue is that so many people, if you are not taught to be anti-racist, you will adapt white supremacy in your mind and heart in ways that you don't realize. And I think although a lot of the kids I was around who drove trucks with the Confederate flags, I wouldn't say they were actively racist to anyone, although I saw a lot of it. They were inevitably going to adapt a racist standpoint because there was never any sort of context with which they were exercising their whiteness in regards to other people in this country, specifically Black Americans. So I think it's just it's a horrendous thing that just needs to be addressed right from the get-go, like right when you're raising your kid, right when you step in schools. And I think that a lot of history textbooks are going to have to be revised pretty heavily to start reflecting less white centricism in our education.
One thing I was thinking about with school, this is even just on a small scale, so you did 3 years on Texas history. I was talking to my sister. We didn't learn about Malcolm X at all. You know, you learn about the civil rights movement, and he was the scary bad guy is kind of what I had this impression of, like, oh, like Martin Luther King was good, and then Malcolm X had some good ideas, but he was scary. There are Black Panthers still in prison now, and it wasn't until I was older where I was like, wait a second, what he's saying doesn't sound crazy at all. And I reflect on, even in my liberal education, what the story of the civil rights was, which was racism was there. Then the civil rights movement came along. We fixed it, but then Martin Luther King died, but we fixed it. And that's like, I think we've people have been born into this false narrative that we took care of the problem, that it ended.
That's so true.
Hey, Keith.
Yeah?
I don't wear glasses, but you wear glasses.
I sure as heck do. And you know what has been always a stifling experience about glasses? That is that you only go get new glasses once every year, maybe once every 2 years, which means you're stuck in a certain look on your face for up to 2 years. Now, think if you had to keep the same haircut for 2 years. Think if you had to keep a mustache for 2 years. You couldn't change your face. God. Well, that's the trap we glasses wearers have been in for so long. But no more. No more. It is now time. Warby Parker has come in, and they're committed to providing exceptional vision care online and in stores, offering eyeglasses, sunglasses, eye exams, and contact lenses. They have cheaper frames, but still amazing lenses, which means you can have multiple pairs. And they will ship you styles to try out in your home, and you can send them back. They've made it so easy for you to up your face style if you are a glasses wearer. You know, I took the quiz. They sent me frames. I picked out some frames I liked. I sent back the ones I didn't. I was able to write what I liked about them. I ended up getting some. And here is the funniest part: is they have a style of glasses called the Eugene.
Oh, I hope they're sexy.
These frames are super high quality. You really can't go wrong with any of the pairs. There's so many styles to choose from. They also have so many good brands of contact lenses. Really, this is your new one-stop shop, and you get to do it all at home with Warby Parker. So try Warby Parker's free home try-on program. Order 5 pairs of glasses to try on at home for free for 5 days. There's no obligation to buy. It ships free and includes a prepaid return shipping label. They've made it so easy. You don't have to do any work to up your style. So try 5 pairs of glasses at home for free at warbyparker.com/TryPod.
That's exactly what they taught us in school, was there's this artificial endpoint of the civil rights movement in the 60s. And it was like...
And then we got disco.
The end. What? Yeah.
And then we got disco. Everything's happy.
Yeah, which I think really can lead you to not then actively question and attempt to overcome the things that are, still happening and have been since the 60s. Creating an endpoint makes you stop fighting. And I think that was dangerous for us to have as kids.
And makes it so easy for some of these young white kids to be like, why are we always talking about race? Why does it have to be about race? Because for them, it's not a reality that they're confronted with. And in fact, the narrative that they've been fed is that we already fought that fight. We already took care of it. So now you're just whining. And that could not be further from the truth.
But this includes all of y'all to an extent, right? I think that's why quite a bit of even white liberals are being forced to recognize
for sure.
the spaces in which they've been taught that even diversity initiatives are very problematic. Mm-hmm. It's really strange. Think about even in your school, if you had diversity classes or diversity fair. Remember that shit? It's also like this weird thing where people have experienced this feeling of we are all one world. Let's hold hands. Let's take a picture of ourselves with 2 different skin tones and la-di-da, that's the Band-Aid. And it's so interesting. God, I want to fucking tweet so many things. It's hard because I remember I grew up always being accused of being a very angry person of color all the way up until, honestly, y'all met me at BuzzFeed where everyone was just like, you should calm that down because we should make that more appealing. But I remember in high school, we had something called Diversity Club, right? And they put on a diversity show every year. Now, it was predominantly black. It was predominantly black because, honestly, that was the best stuff to show. But we had like a few Asians in the school. And I remember the Asians and the Latinos and Hispanics, we all sort of went up to the principal and said, can we create different organizations within the school to represent different points of view within this very like broad diversity spectrum? And I remember he looked right at us, the Asians, and said, Asian Americans didn't contribute anything to American society, so y'all can't have a club. Oh, no. And then I remember thinking that we said, because a lot of my black friends were also like, but then if they didn't contribute anything, you also are not letting us have our own club. Like, is this the perspective that by saying diversity, by saying I have XYZ represented through these initiatives, that I don't have to specifically address ways that they have been essentially pushed down by the system and also ways that they've contributed to it, to society. And I think that every single place I've been in my school, in my college, at BuzzFeed, at the workplaces I've been in, they essentially like had this idea that because we can like put a label on something that says diverse, the problem no longer exists. You tell your kid once like, oh, we're all the same, like, we all bleed the same, but we're different colors. Then your kid's like suddenly understands the plights of other cultures. It's so strange because I feel like I often say that when I grew up, the racism was so prevalent and so awful between groups, especially from my white peers. But then when I went to LA and I entered Hollywood, and even like the most liberal circles, like white gay circles, don't even get me started. The racism was so like latent, but yet denied. Like the denial that racism was even existed. I had like white gay friends who would say the N-word when they were singing songs, and I would tell them you can't do that, and they would say, but I'm not racist, and you got to think about that. Like, we're past that point. It's so interesting however, and I'm not putting this onus on y'all in terms of what y'all experienced, but I think whatever that was in your childhoods that said like, here's the one like lesson I'm going to teach you about other people, other cultures. And just so you know, then after you learn this, we're all the same. I think that has been so detrimental to so many young white Americans' mentalities about what diversity actually means. Mm-hmm. And it certainly has not helped the cases of other people of color, because as an Asian American, at the very least, the model minority comparison point then becomes a huge issue, where it's like we can't even distinguish other people of color. So then when you want us to, we put them against each other in comparison points, because that's like exactly what white supremacy is in the end. It's this idea that by collectively shoveling everyone else into one broad category, you can treat them like animals. You can zoo them up. You can categorize them and say like, well, if Asians do this, then black people shouldn't do this. Mm. But if they all do this, then I get them,
It makes me think of the accidental damage of, oh, I don't see color. I think people have used that for years of this race. Way of, oh yeah, sorry, I don't see race as a way to say, I'm not racist, but what it actually means is I refuse to see both the differences that we should celebrate and the rich culture that different people have, as well as I'm going to ignore racism. If you're saying I don't see race, you are blind to what is a reality, because most people of color don't have the choice to not be engaging with their race on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's tough, because that was the mantra a lot of progressives took our age, like millennials. We were taught that. We were taught to say I don't see color. It was pretty much like the response to racism was for like white teachers and parents to say, oh, don't point out that your friend's Asian. Oh, you need to say that it's my friend who has the red shirt. Yeah. You know, do you remember people saying like, oh, don't say my black friend
Don't
or my Korean friend. You say, oh, he's wearing the floral shirt.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking back then like, oh yeah, that solves everything, doesn't it? No, you're just thinking about how Asian I am, but you're just outwardly saying
trying to come up
nothing
with
about
else.
How I look.
That's
Which
fascinating.
in itself, yeah, there's just so many things that we have tried to put Band-Aids over institutionalized racism in society, and they have proven to not work. So I think the great
and by
part
the way,
about this
that was the
moment is
conversation this week on Twitter, right? Which is, it's okay to admit that you were wrong. We're wrong all the time, and as society we were wrong. I am sure that the I don't see color had the purest of intentions. It was probably some fucking first grade art teacher named Deborah who was trying to prove that she wasn't racist, and even if it meant well, it didn't work. It had these problems, and now we can look back and say we were wrong. We're listening. What can we do that is better? And just in general, like if you have an opinion about what the police means to you, it's okay to challenge your views.
The phrase "I don't see race" or "I don't see color" honestly sounds like a white supremacist slogan.
No,
right?
Very
like,
much so.
doesn't it? Like it almost sounds like I don't acknowledge that.
Right.
Like that's how like it. Yeah. Even though I know that was not how it was used. If you were to like just read that in a textbook and in a different context, you'd be like, "Oh wow, what a racist statement."
Yeah.
But you know, it's so close to the very valid criticisms of the phrase "all lives matter." It blanket statements everyone in an effort to delegitimize individual experience and oppressions.
Yeah, you're totally right.
Totally.
And so it's very strange that when we were growing up, and I'm sure there's still very like strong holdings of liberal pockets that still hold this true in terms of how they try to teach. I think it's changing now, which is great. I think this conversation is going to be great for like, you know, Ned, especially like parents his age are going to be bringing up their kids in a much more realized conversation about race. But man, we were given a really short end of the stick as parents who were really trying their best to say like, oh yeah, slavery's bad. Be nice to your friends who are darker than you, but don't ever talk about it because it doesn't matter anymore. It's not it's not an issue. If you make it an issue, then it becomes an issue.
It's not your black friend, it's your friend in the floral shirt.
Like, I think that's why the last couple of weeks have been super powerful for, liberals to be more supportive than they were before. Because if you are just drawing a binary distinction between like, well, those other white people are racist, but I'm not racist, completely ignores the fact that there are so many things in society that are both fueling your privilege and also marginalizing the black community.
Yeah, I mean, we've all benefited from it, and I think that's why a lot of us are especially motivated to try to help more than ever, because we are all guilty of not having helped enough before, perhaps at all before. So certainly that's lit a fire under my ass to correct my past errors and not being as supportive as I possibly can to those people. I do want to bring it back to one light, funny moment, and it's about the statues. There's one statue in Tennessee of his name is Nathan Bedford Forrest. He's basically an old racist dude. But I want you to look at this guy.
You gotta
if you're
describe
just
it.
listening. Well, he looks like a robot from Futurama.
What?
And this is a real statue, and I've seen a lot of people tweeting, tear all of them down but this one, because this one's so funny it basically tears itself down. But you should Google it so you can look at him, and I'm going to show him here on this. But look at this meme.
Oh my God.
Jesus.
Look at this.
Wow.
Whoa.
He's on a golden horse, and he literally looks like a Futurama robot. He looks horrifying.
He looks like the six-fingered man from Princess Bride.
It looks awful, and this is what the position of it is too. It's just such a crazy. It's just such a crazy statue, and it's been in Tennessee for like forever, and it's so funny, and it's awful, but it's funny looking, and at least some of at least they know that I'm hoping that was like a liberal artist You know?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to make this fucking ugly as shit, and they're going to love it.
Well, an ongoing conversation that we're going to be having, that I hope you're having in your lives. This isn't going away, nor should it, because there's a lot to root out here. But in the meantime, if you're trying to root out systemic racism or just going about living your life, you might need some advice, dare I say some advice, that'll go for miles with your host, Miles
Bonsignore. Here we go. His arms up.
Hit us, baby.
It's advice that'll go for miles. Tune it to your radio station. It's advice that'll go for miles. Everyone get ready. Miles Nation.
We've lost Ned.
Yeah, he always takes this moment.
Miles Nation.
We all have to pee at this point normally. And, there is like a 45-second musical interlude, and then normally Miles just tells us we need to use a certain kind of soap.
What the fuck's up, Miles Nation? Defund the police, bitch. Have you ever wanted to have a sweet little tasty snack? Do you want to have some ice cream?
Bum, bum, bum. Do you want a tasty snack?
Do you want to have some ice cream? Do you want it to be good? Do you want it to be perfect little treat that you have while you're living, sitting in your bed?
We've done ice cream several times at this point.
That was too much use of someone else's copyright.
We did
Miles.
the Klondike bar. That's what it was. What do you got, Miles?
Temper your ice cream, you stupid bitch.
What?
Temper it.
Ice cream is hard when it comes out of the fridge.
Freezer.
And you're going to want to leave it on the counter for a 2-minute timer. Because the ice cream is going to be easier to scoop. Because
This is
guess
one
why?
of your worst ones.
You're a stupid little you're a stupid little bench. And in
The
addition,
advice is leave your ice cream on the counter for a little bit before you scoop it.
And
Jesus,
as an
Miles.
added bonus, leave it on the counter for 3 minutes, if you can believe that. But if you're eating ice cream and you're letting it temper, buy Ben and motherfucking Jerry's, you stupid bench. Because they stand it up against white supremacist pieces of shit. And that leads me to my final point, you stinky bench. That you're going to want to make sure that you vote with your dollar. And buy from organizations that stand up against white supremacy. And specifically black-owned businesses. Ben & Jerry's, I don't believe it's black-owned. But they're standing up against white supremacy. And I want to do the ice cream bit. But make sure that you're buying from places that don't fucking donate to Trump. Like Home Depot. Fuck them. Buy from Lowe's. It's the same shit, and it's also they have wood there.
Miles, why didn't you just say that to begin with?
Yeah,
that second part was way better than
Fantastic.
Yeah, Lowe's
ice
is
cream on the counter.
exactly the same store, but
Do
they
you
don't.
want to have some ice cream?
Okay.
No, back to the copyright issue.
I'm sure this actually is going to be a big conversation in the coming week because Juneteenth is coming up next Friday, and people are pushing for that to be a day of economic pause, kind of protesting with your dollar.
Which I can't believe that's not an official holiday.
Yeah.
Insane.
It's unbelievable.
On the list of things that we should be outraged about right now, there was primaries yesterday in Georgia, among other places. We have rampant voter suppression going on across this country. Like this country's based on a few things, right? Democracy, voting, freedom of speech. In the last 2 weeks, we have seen both of those taken away. People unable to vote, people having curfews enforced on them. I mean, this is fucking crazy. So I know that a lot of you are like, can't we stop talking about politics? Politics is life. This is not just like, oh, where should we be spending our budget? This affects how people live and breathe. So this shit could not possibly be more important.
There we go.
Yeah.
Here we go, Miles. I got something peppy to get back to your ice cream bit. Some advice. If you like ice cream, buy an ice cream scoop.
That was my advice already, Ned. I already did that shit. It's because you leave the room when I get advice, Ned.
You stinky bench.
You stinky bench.
Go off, Miles. Go off, Miles. Go
off, Queen.
Bye, Wes. Bye, Wes. Go off, Miles. Go
off, Miles.
Podcast
Go
Daddy. Yes.
You're
Get
right.
it,
That's probably why it
Miles.
was in my head. Anyways,
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. Give us that 5 stars. We've got merch. We've been trying to donate some of the proceeds of our channel to the Black Lives Matter movement. Stay safe out there. Keep protesting. Keith, hit us with the official TryPod theme song.
Go to your local park, and if you see a racist thing, you're totally allowed to destroy that racist thing. It's the TryPod.
until next time, stay beautiful.